Welcome to Asenso Tayo Leaders, where we bring you real stories from leaders like you so you can lead with more clarity, direction, and confidence. Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast. And for those who are watching a video version of this, probably in YouTube, you might be noticing that I'm the only one on screen. Well, such a bugger for today. I don't have my dearest co-host, colleague, and friend Michael back with me today, but it's okay. You got me. And I can't wait to do this introduction as well because I would be introducing our next guest and somebody who's very dear to me, not just a colleague, but also a dear friend, and Jabla Jr. And guys, I can't wait for you to listen to this because I believe you will find a lot of really inspiring stories from Ed, from the history of his career and how it led him to be who he is now, which is a very respected person at 5ELK, a person that we all admire and treasure. And aside from that, Ed actually chooses a card that is one of our favorite cards. Not to be biased, but it's one of the cards that Becky and I were praying that he would choose, which is very fitting to Ed's story. I don't want to say much, but keep an eye out on this one. There's a lot to learn and a lot to take out from here. And also, I'd just like to share, guys, while I was looking at and listening to the recording after the session with Becky and Ed, I was a bit emotional because I was kind of like looking back and going through the memory lane of the humble beginnings at 5ELK. And took me back to those moments wherein I got a lot of support and a lot of strength from Ed. So Ed, if you're listening to this, I want to say it out loud. I thank you so much. Genuinely thank you. Again, you're not just a colleague, you're a friend. And I thank you so much for all the support through the years working together and can't wait for more. Without further ado, let's get stuck into the deck of hearts with Ed Jabla Jr.
Welcome back to the Asenso Tayo Leaders podcast, where we help you take the next step in your leadership journey wherever you are at right now. And Maria and I don't have favorites. We love all of our guests equally. They all have something to offer. But I have to admit that I have been particularly excited about this episode. And I can't think of one where I've been more excited about hitting record and starting the episode than our guest today, none other than superstar, coach, trainer, and a million other things at 5ELK, Mr. Ed Jabla Jr. Welcome to the podcast, good sir.
Hey, Becky and Maria. Thanks for having me here.
Thank you for jumping in, mate. It's so great to have you on here. One of the challenges Maria and I had was trying to work out what direction we wanted to go down with you because there were so many interesting angles. As you'll discover soon, it's a bit of a choose your own adventure because we're going to open up the deck of hearts for you, our special episode type where we give you a deck of prompts, questions, reflections that you can choose from, and you are in complete control as to what you want to answer. We're going to get you to shuffle and choose a question from the deck shortly, but before then, I'd love to help the people listening get to know you a little bit better. I mentioned that you're a coach. I mentioned that you are a trainer. You have a very interesting kind of hybrid role at 5ELK. But what I'd love to start off with is, why don't you just share your 5ELK journey from the first day that you turned up at the office to today? Where's your career taken you? And what are your days full of at 5ELK? What types of things do you get up to?
It's a very interesting journey at 5ELK because it's a whole lot of different roles, different departments. But what I like about my journey at 5ELK is that I get the chance to experience each of the department, which is really great. So I started my journey as a CSA for a year and 6 months. And then I became a trainer and later a senior trainer for the AU team. So every session that I got, I didn't just teach processes, but I helped build their confidence. I moved to the UK team a
Yeah.
year and 4 months ago. It's like an uncharted territory when I moved to the UK. Before joining 5Elk, I was
Yeah.
with the quality and training department for 7 years total. So I applied for a performance coach role because I want to be in a different line of business, not
Mm-hmm.
just in training and quality as well, because I wanted to test my limits. And then there was no performance coach open that time. And Maria told me that you are really in line with the training team. So I got the role as a trainer, but I've doubted myself a lot when I had my trainer. Are you sure, Maria, I can do this? I have limited experience, like 1 year and 6 months, and 6 months is more of the licensee experience. From 20 team members now, we are approximately 400 team
Yeah.
members.
And what got you going? Because you mentioned you were a little bit unsure if it was for you. But when did you find out that, okay, I'm the right track, and what kept you going?
I think it's all about my purpose, Maria. It
Mhm.
boils down to my purpose why I joined 5Elk. Like looking back when I first started with 5Elk, when I had my interview with you, the memory
Wow,
is
I never
still
knew that.
fresh.
You never knew that?
No.
I freak out Becky because Maria got this very loud voice, a strong voice in a good way. And I was like, oh my gosh, this lady from Australia. And then they got this. I really thought that Maria was based in Australia at that time because Maria was like this. All right, tell me about yourself.
Yes. Because we had this conference room, Becky, that Danielle said, oh, utilize this as much as you can. So what I do, whenever there's interview, that's what I use.
So that's really my purpose. Like I wanted to experience that work-life balance
Yeah.
because I came from different industries where I felt like the leaders there are using their power all the time. Well, I felt
Mm.
like I'm not supported at all. So when I searched for a job with the hashtag work-life balance, I found 5Elk. Can you
Oh,
imagine?
yeah. Thank you to that hashtag.
That's right. With the
Mm.
hashtag work life balance, I found 5UP. So there you go. 5UP didn't just give me a career, it gave me a purpose. Like 7 years and 4 months working at 5UP, turning eight
Yes.
this year. I think there's something I've learned in my journey at 5UP is that
Mm.
you don't need to see the whole staircase to start climbing.
Oh,
You
I
just
love
need to
that.
take that first step with the heart and passion.
I
And
love
I
that.
always teach that to my trainees as well.
I find that really interesting. I was it's probably about a year ago. I was going for a walk with my dad, and I said to him something along the lines of, "I just, I just have this feeling like I don't really know what I'm doing, and I'm just figuring it out as I go." And he said, "Oh yeah, yeah. I tell you, that feeling doesn't change when you hit 70. It's still the exact same thing." And it was
Mm.
almost that moment where I realized it was the first time my dad has lived on planet Earth as well, right? Like it's not like he
He
has
knew
it all
what,
figured out and I
yeah.
need to learn that same rule book. It's like we're all just making it up as we go. And when you say things like, just getting comfortable taking the next step, and sometimes the staircase is in darkness, but all you got to do is just find that next step. I feel like there's so much wisdom to that because really none of us know exactly what's going to happen. And everything we do really is a trial to see how it goes. And sometimes
Yeah.
we win the game, sometimes we lose the game. But I love that attitude that you have around curiosity and just
Yeah.
being brave enough to go, I think there's something good here and I'm just going to trust in that and figure out the details later. I
Yeah.
think that's a contagious optimism that we all love about you in working with you,
Yes.
is that you open up to possibility and what could be done, not what can't be done. Like everything for you is about showing us what that staircase looks like. I want to turn the tables, Ed. This is going to make you happy. I want to ask Maria a question.
Oh, wow. Okay. I feel betrayed again, Becky. You
Yeah, I
betrayed me
do
with
this all the time.
Adrian
Yeah,
Ding.
you're losing trust in me, aren't you? I
Yeah,
just, I
I
just keep
am.
blindsiding you. No, I want to know. A young, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Ed Jabla Jr. walks into the or doesn't walk in, but you're in the boardroom. Were you face to face or online? You meeting?
Online.
Really
You're in the
thought,
boardroom. You got your hands spread out on the board table with the big CEO energy, and then Ed jumps into the call. What were your impressions of Ed? Do you remember that interview? Do you remember how you felt at the end of it?
Yes, I actually remember that interview because, if I may, Ed, if you don't mind. So
yeah, no
initially, when we
worries.
were looking, Danielle and I were kind of, okay, we need to look for, we have the profile of the client. We need somebody brilliant, blah, blah, blah. And we're kind of like, okay, we've got all these CVs with us, but then we were like, are there also other CVs that were not pushed through to us, meaning those who already rejected by
Yeah.
the hiring provider? And then I was like, have a look, Maria. And then I said, sure. Okay, let's have a look. So I went through all of that. I said, guys, give me all of those that you've rejected. We just want to see who were out there, who took an interest in the role. So, okay, going through that, and I was like, look at this guy. His background would tell you came from, yes, a lot of experience from dental insurance, as far as I can remember,
Yeah.
Guardian, and also overseas. Ed was actually working overseas, Becky. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
oh my God, who is this person who is even interested in a very humble role? Because somehow I searched the role that he had and I was like, it's earning this amount of money and why? I love that simplicity from that alone, the thought of giving it a try. And then I said, okay, book this guy. And then the person was like, oh, no, 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 he will not take it, Maria. He's from overseas. No, 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 I'll give it a try. And he went ahead. Like I was so surprised. He answered right away. And I was oh my gosh, he's very interested. And I said, yeah, put him on. And I can still remember he was so formal, Becky, like as if, as if it was a face-to-face chat. And mind you, I was given a heads up already by this lady from the recruitment, and he might be very curious about the salary. And she was constantly very paranoid about Ed pointing out the salary. So I was already ready. But then he never asked it. He was really, I can so remember, he was very curious about the role. He's very polished. It's as if he expected that we were meeting face to face. His hair he was very, I don't know, how can I describe your hair back then,
Yeah.
Ed?
Yeah. Slick.
It was very slick. And then I answered so I have all this template about first I will ask about work ethics and then I will ask about behavior and things like that. I walked out that boardroom, put it that way, feeling like I want this guy right away. Like I walked out saying I want to work with somebody like that who
Yeah.
can he was so proud to talk about what he has achieved, but then very humble to dig deeper about the role and what he is prepared to do, even though he already had that X amount of experience. So I told the recruiters, can I use this template for people that you will look for next time?
I'm interested in that, and I do want to get to the deck of hearts, but this is what happens with you, Ed, is that when we start talking to you, it's almost impossible to cut the conversation short. It's so pleasant talking to you.
Yes.
But I can't not ask this question. Did you have an experience in your former work life that work became too clinical? It didn't involve enough of your heart, didn't involve enough of your passion. And I suppose the reason I ask that is like, yeah, work-life balance is important, but then you've also said a couple of times in this chat that you found your purpose of 5ELK. And then when I'm hearing that you're interviewing, you're not even asking about money, it seems to me you are looking for something deeper than just a paycheck. And potentially that's because of what had come before you joined 5ELK. So is there a story there?
Yeah. So working as an overseas Filipino worker in the Middle East for 2 years. 2 years felt like 10 years, to be honest. So if you are seeing the bubbly Ed right now, I'm a different person. So my confidence was really crushed. So it's kind of different person with what I am right now. So I'm very grateful that 5L built my confidence. I could not see my potential without 5L for real.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned work-life balance, but the thing that just popped out of me is that it was almost like you were looking for more life in your work, that you wanted to be more of yourself in whatever
That's
you were
right.
doing.
That's right.
And so I think now's a great time to ask you, you had a special anniversary of Five Elk. I'd love you to tell the listeners how you commemorated that anniversary.
It was very special. I get to spend time alone. So I got my first ever tattoo. It's like baybayin. It's like an old writing in the Philippines, baybayin. The meaning for that is padayon. So padayon is a very strong
Yes.
word in Bisaya, means
Yes.
continue or keep going. And the padayon word or keep going, there will be a time in your work life, Becky and Maria, where you
Yeah.
feel demotivated. There's no perfect company, there's no perfect job at all.
Yeah.
But I always tell my trainees about this when I was still running the Kickstarter phase one, to create this inspiration folder, like all of your positive feedback, save it
Yeah.
in that inspiration folder, so that if you felt demotivated at some point of your work life, you would be able to revisit and go back to your core. So that's what keep going mean.
Love it.
I love that. Yeah,
Mm.
it's very real for you. It's I think there's so much of your story that just sounds like there's the doubt, there's the fear, but instead of letting that paralyze you, you just keep going. You face the fear, you take one small step at a time, and eventually you feel different.
So you got this.
I need to contrast this self-doubt picture that you've painted, because for anyone listening out there who isn't aware of Ed, this is the same guy that when I need a video to be sent out to all the company that isn't just a boring video of someone standing in front of a camera reading a script, but is a video that involves him simultaneously playing the role of his mother and his father and a baby version of himself,
Yes.
wearing a wig, dress. There are no bounds to what this man will do for his art and for comedy. But this man has recorded some of the funniest videos I've seen in my entire life. Ones that I show my friends and family saying, how incredible is this guy? And so, yeah, I think a lot of people would probably be surprised if they know you to know that you
Yes.
started with self-doubt. But then for anyone who doesn't know you, to know that you can go from a position of feeling that self-doubt to being incredibly hilarious and putting yourself outside your comfort zone and doing incredible work around the way. I mean, it's a testament to you that you found your way there.
Thanks, Becky, but I could not make it without you guys, your creative juices as well.
And also for the guys out there, just to paint more detailed picture of Ed, you know, the kind of person who, the moment you see him, there's just that energy that would just make you smile, even though you don't know him. Like even if you don't know him, you just see him, you haven't even watched his funny videos or anything like that. Just gives you that energy of the kind of person who's very passionate about the role and who's just, I don't know, Ed, you just have this when you do workshops, like it's shown in the way you do it, like it's for them, it's not for any internal motive or anything like that, or to brag that you're the trainer or somebody who knows a lot of things. But that's also what some of the guys would tell me, like, oh, love him. Like he's very
Mhm.
much giving everything that we need to get us ready for a client meeting or to get us ready for the next product provider things that we need to
Yeah.
know. So yeah, so I think that pretty much sums up who an Ed Habla Jr. or from Becky's point of view, Ed Jabla Jr. That's the full
Yeah.
picture.
I sometimes think one of the reasons I co-host a podcast with you, Maria, is so we can tell people how we actually feel about them in a way that's not awkward. But I did want to share something that popped up for me the other week, actually. Maria, when you said that feeling of like when you see him, that just kind of positive energy transfers, and you know, when he's in a workshop, there's this generosity of spirit where he just gives everything he's got. There's almost just a vibe, a feeling to Ed that changes how you feel about everything. And I was listening to a podcast a couple of weeks ago, and they were talking. It was a sport podcast, and they were talking about this particular athlete, and they said, oh, he's the type of athlete that when you see him on the field, you just feel safe knowing that that person's next to you. And I thought about that, and I was like, who in Five Elk makes me feel like everything's going to be okay? And it's Ed. So it's like anytime I run a workshop and I see Ed in the audience, I'm just like, this is going to be great. You give so many people around you this feeling of comfort, of safety, of
Yeah.
it's kind of protection, but it's also just positivity and care that you just know that Ed has you back. And there's a ripple effect to that everyone around you does better work as a result. And then the people they do work for get a better experience as a result. And there's a very big ripple effect to who you are, Ed, which I think is pretty special. So I hope you realize that, because it means a lot to us.
Yeah.
I think, Maria, it's
We're
time
ready.
for us to shuffle the deck.
I'll read it out loud, and then from here, choose one of the questions that you would like to unravel and answer. Okay, so first question, Ed. Can you share a moment where you felt like you were failing as a leader, and tell us what was going on inside your head at that time? Question number 2. At what point did you stop trying to be who you thought you should be at work and start
Mhm.
being yourself instead? Okay. And the last one, what is it about your work that makes you care as much as you do? We got to pat ourselves on the back, Becky. I think these are really great, juicy questions for Ed.
That's right.
So,
All right. Since I'm a middle child, I'm a second child, I'll pick the second question.
okay. All right. I love it. Perfect. Okay.
Ed, I would have been so sad. Like I wouldn't have, the listeners wouldn't have known. I would have just gone with it. But I was so hoping you'd pick that question.
Oh.
I was like, it's like exactly the thing that I think would be such a curious idea to people,
Yes.
but is such an interesting way to approach work. And I think there's such a paradigm shift for a lot of people in your answer to this question. So why don't you repeat the question so everyone knows which one you've chosen, and then we'll start hearing you unpack it.
Yeah.
Sure. Question number 2. At what point did you stop trying to be who you thought you should be at work and start being yourself instead? Very interesting.
Okay.
So, growing up, Becky and Maria, failure was never really an option for me. As a middle child, and I had to send myself to school, and by the age of 17, I started working to support myself for my studies and for my daily needs. Because of that, I carried that mindset that I always had to get it right all the time. So I need
Mm.
to be strong, like always compose, always having that answers. But that version of me was kind of exhausting, to be honest. So over time, I realized my real strength came for being this blank canvas. So I'm like a sponge, willing to absorb all the things. So I started learning those stuff and joining some session with Daniel Carey and all of those CSAs, or I think Maria ran some sessions about financial planning as well. And from that time on, I've shared my experiences admitting when I didn't know something. So letting them know that I'm really not sure how to do this when I was still a CSA. Can you help me with this? So that moment, I embrace being myself. I notice a shift. So my trainees or under my supervision trusted me more. My colleagues connected with me more.
Was there a moment where, because it sounds to me like when you started as a CSA, when you're in those client meetings, you would have been like, I've got this all figured out. I know everything. Like you would have been putting that bravado forward, or, putting forward that persona of perfection. I'm so glad that you got over that, because that's something we all need to get over in some respects is, that beginner's mind, that, what do they say? The only true knowledge is knowing you know nothing at all. I'm interested if there was a moment where you decided to drop that facade, or was it more of a gradual process of seeing people around you be okay with sharing where they were struggling, or admitting they didn't have it all figured out, or, that you kind of saw it in the people around you and you went, oh, okay, it's all right to be more like that? Or was there a moment where you just went, nah, no more. I'm going to stop doing it this way and start doing it a new way?
I think, Becky, it's a gradual process. So it just clicked at some point when I was still a CSA that I need to be me. I need to inject my personality.
So what I'm really struck by in what you're saying, Ed, is that you were rewarded at your previous job for being perfect. You literally got paid more if you were perfect. But it came at this personal toll where you weren't happy and you weren't fulfilled. So I think in some ways, like the headline of this story that I'm hearing is the more you got comfortable with embracing your imperfections and just being yourself, the more personally fulfilling it was.
Yeah, it is.
What I'm interested in, though, is how do you start trusting in that process? So you said before that it was a gradual process. Was it the environment you were in? Is it that the people around you were imperfect and expressing themselves and it showed you a different way to be that you decided to try and be more like that? Or was there something else happening around you that gave you that confidence to take the leap to go, no, you know what? I'm just going to start expressing myself, start posting some of these inspirational quotes, start doing some things that weren't technically your job, but they felt right and you kind of were exposing more of who you are. What was it that gave you the confidence to take that leap?
I think it's the environment. It's like I realized that, we don't need to be perfect, but early on, we just have to explore things and accept the fact that we're not perfect. I think that's it, Baki. It's the environment as well that helps me to push harder, that it's okay to fail. It's okay to ask questions.
How has that impacted the way that you lead others now?
That's my mantra when I started with being a trainer, that I will tell my trainees that it's okay. Don't freak out, just reach out.
Yeah.
It's like asking a question is not a sign of weakness, it's a sign of strength.
Can I jump in and ask a question about the being yourself stuff? Something I found really interesting is that it sounds like when you first came to 5L, because of what you'd experienced in the past, you felt like you had to be perfect. And then you went through this process because of the environment you're in, but also a bit of trial and error where you went, actually, I can be imperfect and I'm going to learn more that way. But then also I can use that as a tool to help train and lead and teach the people around me. So it's almost like you unwound the perfection stuff and then all of a sudden you could just kind of be imperfect. But then there's another part of being yourself at work that you've added on top of that. And I feel like that's this self-expression. So I think most people have their home persona and they come to work and to varying degrees, they kind of put on this professional persona and hold a bit of themselves back. But then there's people like you who have just found this way to not just be more of yourself at work, but probably learn more of who you actually are through work. There's bits of everything you do where people have got to know you and gone, could you help with this? And then you've turned up at those moments and injected heaps of yourself. And then all of a sudden that becomes this, like I've called you a unicorn before. I gave you some unicorn Lego for Christmas last year because there's like no one else like you who I've ever worked with. And that's because you are so self-expressed. It's a very long-winded question. So apologies for that rant. I just wanted to set the scene. What has given you that confidence? Once you were like, I can be imperfect, what's then given you that confidence to take that step and go, actually, I'm going to open up to the depths of who I am and what makes me happy and who I truly am as a person, and felt comfortable enough to bring that to work? Because there's a lot of people out there who haven't even thought of that as an idea. What's made you do that?
One of the biggest factors would be, I think I'm in the right tribe. It brings out the best in you. And that made me who I am today because of 5L. And I can't wait for more because growth is so big in 5L. So they've supported me different ways as well, provided training, and I can't wait to be the best version of myself. I think how many versions that I
What version
that I
is this?
have with 5L, but yeah, I can't wait.
So version 1 was, I have to be perfect. I've come from an environment where I get financially punished if I do the wrong thing.
Yeah.
And then version 2 is like, I can actually be imperfect. Version 3 is, I take all of those lessons and teach people those things. Version 4 is, how far can I push this? Like I can just be completely myself at work and somehow it makes me even more valuable What does
Yeah.
version 5 look like?
Version 5 is like version of myself that you don't need to be boring.
Mm,
You don't need to be boring, even if it's just a simple thing to do. You
mm,
can
Mm.
spice it up.
I think something you've cracked, Ed, is that there's the work we do and then the way we do it. And the way we do it is often something that people don't realize is part of the value we bring. So,
yeah.
even if you're a CSA, right, you can be
Mm,
technically brilliant at implementing advice, but if you also make your clients feel really good and positive and optimistic on a call with them, they're not going, oh, well, that's less important than the admin you're doing. It's all the same thing. And I
Mm,
think
yeah,
you have really cracked that code of going, it's not just what I'm doing, it's how I'm doing it that makes me a valuable member of the team.
crack
yeah.
that code. I love it.
Yeah. And I love that you touched about creativity because I know sometimes when people like say with 5L, when people start with us, people with from different experience and would say, "Oh, I have to just go by this step 1, step 2,
Yeah,
step 3, step 4 and that should be good." But
Mm,
then with you, you're saying that every step can be a little bit going above and beyond and something that you
yeah,
can include yourself like
yeah,
say, and I think we've in workshops, like with this Carta series at Five Elk and things like that, we've always been talking about like give your thoughts as well, your
mm,
creativity as well to clients. Like tell them as well what how processes could be enhanced from your
mm, mm, mm.
perspective. Communicate your thoughts. And I love that
mm,
that you mentioned that earlier about creativity. And for those who are listening out there, like it doesn't have to be that step 1, step 2, step 3 all the time.
yeah,
It can
Yeah.
always be okay in the step 1, there might be a step 1.1 that I want to incorporate. Or shall I say back inculcate?
Inculcate.
Inculcate. Or step 2, I want to make it this one and this one. So I love that you've brought that in that this conversation because this is a really good reminder that we
Mm,
can be ourselves. We can
yeah,
input bits and pieces of our expertise, our experiences as
mm,
well, and just that creative mindset. And we don't have to be just like, okay, what my client will tell me, that's it.
mm.
And if it's going beyond, I don't want to touch it anymore. So I think that was really powerful.
It's like going back to the staircase analogy, right? And you're
Yeah.
saying like you just take it one step at a time. It's also a weird staircase in that you can choose what the rest of the staircase looks like. And I love what you said, Maria, around you can make each step your own. So it's like most of the people we work with, whether it's Danielle, whether it's a client, they don't actually know what all the stairs look like, and they don't want to just tell us what to do when we do it. They actually want us to co-design the staircase with them.
mm,
Yes.
And that's part of it is like have a general understanding of what the staircase looks like, but then you can invent it as you go. And when we say creativity, I don't know if it's the same in the Philippines, but in Australia, there's this bias towards people going, oh, it's got to be art or it's got to be music or it's got to be something
yeah,
like create. But creativity really is just inventing something that wasn't there before you arrived. That
I
could be a
agree.
process. That could be a plan of attack to solve a problem. It could be the way
Yes.
you deal with a difficult situation with a client. They're all versions of creativity. And so, yeah, I think I love what you just said, Maria, because it's opening creativity to not just, oh, well, I'm not a creative person, to
Yeah,
everyone has an opportunity to be creative. It's
Yeah.
about bringing yourself to the moment
mm,
rather than waiting for someone to tell you
Yeah.
what to do. That's creative.
And which leads me to the power of Ed in his roles at Five Elk is allowing that creativity, sucking that creativity out of people and
Mm,
letting them blossom.
mm,
So the thing here is for leaders, how you would be able to navigate
yeah,
and mentor that person to bring that out and not just say, oh, I have to be perfect, or like say, oh, I'm
yeah.
just gonna wait to be told. I don't want to
that's
be
right.
myself. And I think that's where your roles, Ed, at Five Elk has been
Mm,
that instrumental because you let them bring it
mm,
out. And then
Mm,
that's where the magic happens. That's where clients are happy. And even I guess so, team members are also happy when they feel they can be who they are.
yeah,
I just remember, Becky, I'm just going to insert, there was one, and I'll share this. There was one of these team members, very new. And kind of like when he started, I was like, hey, hello. And he was like, oh, hello. And he was very shy. And then one time he was curious because came out from your trainings and all of that. And he was like, oh, Maria, I just have a question. Like, these clubs, do we register and are these selected? Blah, blah, blah. And then I said, no, you just join whatever you want. Like, whatever is in your
Mm.
mind. Like, what do you want to do? And then he was like, I don't know. And then I said, do you like games? Do you like online games? And it's like, oh yeah, I want online games. I said, just try to join. And NJ came in and NJ was so welcoming and NJ was like, hey, yeah, you can be our group. And now when I just look back at that with all those people in the mix, Ed, Jamel, trainer, NJ, and everybody else was telling, hey, I find that when it came to that anniversary catch up, Earl was just like, I think I really belong here. I can just be myself. So I'm just sharing that because that's also the kind of ripple effect. Yeah, I want people out there, you guys who are listening, leaders out there, like all of us, we can create that ripple effect. We can
Agree.
create that avenue when people can be themselves. And it doesn't have to be like fear all the time, doesn't have to be
Mm.
perfection all the time, doesn't have to be authority and superiority all the time, right?
Mm,
So yeah,
beautifully
you've
put,
unraveled
Maria.
so much, Ed.
Mm.
I think this is for the people listening where they felt themselves that they don't have any creative juices at all. They just have to believe in themselves. I
Yeah.
know that as a human being, we have this edge. We have this creativity. Maybe it can be through numbers, through tech. There's always something in you, and you just have to unravel that.
And not make it this big moment of insane creativity, but just finding it in the little moments. And then over time, you look back on something and go, wow, that's so good now. And I know all the little things that went into it, but it's because you've done those little things along the way to make it build to something beautiful.
Yeah.
That's right.
I have two questions that kind of wrap up your wonderful answers to the second question that you chose in the deck of hearts. The first one is if someone is out there and they know that they have this persona that they're not bringing to work, and there's almost a bit of fear or hesitation or uncertainty about how to be more like you, where it's like just being yourself at work. If they feel nervous and shy and they're holding themselves back and they want to feel less self doubt and more confident to bring their full self to work, what would your advice to them be?
Fear and uncertainties are very normal as a human being. The moment that you feel the fear, the brain would automatically tell you not to do it. But you just have to fight and take that one step for that staircase, and you will be able to see the difference afterwards. And
Mm-hmm.
of course, continue to build your confidence inside, because what's fulfilling is that you were able to fight back those doubts within, and you will see how victorious it is, even small
Mm-hmm.
things that you were able to conquer it.
We're up to question two. If you're a leader out there and you can just tell that the people in your team are holding themselves back, they're not bringing their full selves, they're hearing you talk right now, Ed, and they're going, oh, I just wish my team were more like that they were creative and injected themselves and uplifted others. Like they want to create a team of people who have more of that spirit and bring more of themselves to work. What would your advice to a leader be if they wanted the people around them to be more like that?
The advice to the leaders out there that would break would be that your team members can relate to you. And if you inject those experiences that you got, I think that's really helpful.
So it's kind of like using all those tough times that you've had as a strength and an
Yes,
opportunity to go, I can use that to teach you something, but also make you feel more comfortable that I haven't got it all figured out. I've had self doubt. I understand your journey. I've been there. I'm a few steps
yeah,
ahead on the staircase, but ultimately I'm not out of reach. I'm just
that's right.
a future version of you. And the more open you are about what you've been through, the more they feel comfortable that everything that's happening to them is okay. As we've been talking, I've been like, what's this episode going to be called? What do you think we should call this episode, Ed?
Adventure.
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 That's a good starting point. Ed, thank you for shuffling the
Love
deck
it.
of hearts with us. We're gonna give you your flowers. Thank you. Thanks for opening up. Thank you
Yes.
for sharing the imperfections of your journey. That's exactly what you're saying you do, but you've actually done it through us. And I just know that it's going to give so many people comfort to know that a rock star at 5 Elk like Ed has all that self-doubt that we all have. I think it's going to be really illuminating for them, but I also think it's going to provide them with a path up that staircase towards starting new adventures, finding more fulfillment at their work, whatever they do, but also realizing that the way they walk up that staircase has an impact on the people around them. And it's not just about what you do, it's how you do it. You're such a beautiful example of all of those. And yeah, Maria and I love working with a unicorn like you, my friend.
Thanks, Becky and Maria.
Thank you so much for sharing, Ed. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to Asenso Tayo Leaders. If something landed with you today, don't just keep it in your head. Make sure you try it. Kaya mo yan. Asenso Tayo Leaders is brought to you by 5 Elk, a team who helps great businesses build great offshore teams. If you're curious about what we do or what it's like to work with us, you'll find everything you need at 5elk.com. And if you're leading people but want to find ways to do it better, make sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or your podcast platform of choice, so you're the first to know when we release a new episode. Remember, you're not meant to have it all worked out. Just keep taking the next step. Asenso tayo!